the game.
Attention Vikings fans, buckle up because today's video is loaded with breaking stories that could shake up this roster. There's a player who thought his spot was safe, but now he's sitting right on the roster bubble. There's also an urgent hunt for wide receivers on the market, and we're going to break down 7 names in free agency and which ones actually make the most sense to join this team. The Vikings just dropped some big updates on wideout injuries, and there's a controversial situation gaining steam as fans cry foul over a possible conspiracy involving Jordan Addison. Is there any chance of an appeal before the season kicks off? You won't want to miss a single detail. Welcome. Show your Vikings support by reaching 100 thumbs up on today's video. You know that strange feeling when a guy everyone once hyped up suddenly looks like he might not make it? That's exactly what's happening with Mekhi Blackmon. The cornerback, who was once seen as a key piece of the Vikings' future defense, is now hanging by a thread, and fans didn't see it coming. After an impressive recovery from a torn ACL, he came back hungry to prove himself. But reality has been harsh. Way too many preseason snaps and performances that left a lot to be desired. And here's the kicker. When a player logs that many reps in preseason, it's usually not a sign of trust from the coaches, but desperation to see if he even deserves a roster spot. Blackmon played 55 snaps against the Patriots, leading the defense in playing time, but graded poorly on Pro Football Focus. Meanwhile, Byron Murphy Jr., Isaiah Rodgers, and Jeff Okudah didn't play a single snap because their jobs are locked in ink. To make matters worse, Blackmon hasn't just fallen behind the starters, he's now being pushed by depth guys who are showing more consistency. Dwight McGlothern, Zamiah Vaughn, and even Ambry Thomas are creeping up, putting even more heat on number 26. And let's be honest, if this defense has already taken heavy criticism, you can't afford to keep corners who look shaky. What makes this sting even more is his story. Blackmon was supposed to be a real contender for the CB3 job, especially after Stephon Gilmore left. But the hype quickly turned into frustration. Some fans are still clinging to the idea that all these preseason snaps are just a way to knock the rust off that knee. But realistically, a decision is coming in just a few days. And here's the brutal dilemma. Do you stick with a guy who hasn't proven steady since the injury, or roll with fresh blood that's on the rise? Time is running out, and Blackmon might have one final shot against the Titans. If he doesn't flash something huge, his career in Minnesota could end before it really ever begins. And for those who believed 100% that he was part of the defensive rebuild, that's a tough pill to swallow. And what about moves in the market? Imagine starting a season already down 2 key wide receivers, only to see the depth chart thin out even more week by week. That's exactly the nightmare the Minnesota Vikings are facing. Jordan Addison is suspended for the first 3 games. Rondale Moore is out for the year with a brutal knee injury. And to make things worse, Justin Jefferson is still nursing a hamstring issue, and Jalen Nailor can't get going with a hand injury. The question across all of Minnesota is obvious. Who's going to carry this passing attack? General Manager Kwesi Adofo-Mensah may have rebuilt the offensive line and beefed up the defense, but wide receiver depth is now priority number 1. And the names being floated around Minneapolis are enough to get any fan buzzing. Tyler Boyd, for example, had a down year, but his track record of consistency and familiarity with a similar system makes him intriguing. Odell Beckham Jr., who once shined in a Super Bowl with the Rams, is another option, but his age and inconsistency since 2021 raise real concerns. And it doesn't stop there. There's the emotional possibility of Adam Thielen coming home. The franchise legend is still with the Carolina Panthers, but pulling off a trade wouldn't be easy since he's basically their only veteran wideout. Another nostalgic name is Cordarrelle Patterson, just released by the Falcons. Fun as that reunion sounds, his hybrid role may not be what this team actually needs right now. Among the most intriguing options are Amari Cooper and Gabe Davis. Cooper, even as a vet, still puts up solid numbers and would be a steady hand next to Jefferson. Davis, younger and more explosive, could be a gamble worth taking if he's fully recovered from a meniscus injury. For him, a stop in Minnesota could be the perfect shot at rebooting his career. The truth is, none of these names would leapfrog Jefferson or Addison, but any of them could provide the balance this offense desperately needs to avoid sinking early in the season. Fans are split between the emotion of bringing a legend back and the pragmatism of betting on someone who's still got juice. The clock is ticking, and every day without a move just cranks up the pressure on the front office. Now for the injury updates. When you think about the Minnesota Vikings, the first picture in your mind is Justin Jefferson running perfect routes and torching defenses. But lately, his absence with that hamstring injury has had fans holding their breath. The good news, Kevin O'Connell confirmed Jefferson is back at practice. He's not suiting up for preseason, but just seeing him out there, even in a limited role, changes the entire vibe. After all, we're talking about the best wide receiver in the NFL and the top target for rookie quarterback J.J. McCarthy. This slow return is all about strategy. Nobody wants to relive the nightmare from 2 years ago when a similar injury sidelined Jefferson for weeks. With 3 weeks until the opener against the Bears, the plan is to have him ready to dominate from the jump. Fans can breathe a little easier, but Jefferson isn't the only storyline. Addison is suspended, and what could have been covered by Jalen Nailor has now turned into another headache. Nailor not only hurt his hand, but surgery might be on the table. That changes everything, since he was penciled in as the WR2 during Addison's absence. Now the Vikings face a harsh truth. They might need to sign not one, but 2 impact receivers to keep McCarthy from being stranded. On the defensive side, though, there's some relief. Josh Metellus, who scared fans with an injury during joint practices against the Patriots, is already back. And we're not talking about just any guy. Metellus is the Swiss Army knife of this defense, a player who lines up everywhere and keeps improving every season. With Cam Bynum gone to the Colts, his role is about to get even bigger in 2025. If Nailor worries, Metellus brings confidence. That contrast is the roller coaster life of a Vikings fan. One day you're celebrating a star's return, the next you're losing sleep over another injury. What's clear is Minnesota has no time to waste. Every move now matters to make sure this team shows up ready at Soldier Field to take on the Bears at full strength. And now comes the outrage. Vikings fans want to know if the league is intentionally stacking the deck against them. When the NFL handed down a 3-game suspension to Jordan Addison, many fans swallowed hard. Not because they denied he deserved punishment, but because the comparison to Rashee Rice came instantly. Addison is locked out of the first 3 games, while Rice, who was involved in a high-speed car crash, gets to play until late September. The difference in timing sparked anger that quickly morphed into conspiracy theories. Why the rush with Addison but the delay with Rice? The league says Rice's case is more complex, involving multiple charges and a recent plea deal, so his hearing got pushed to September 30th. But to fans, it smells like convenience. Not a coincidence, they argue, that Rice is free to play the Chiefs' first 4 games against the Chargers, Eagles, Giants, and Ravens, all nationally televised blockbusters. Who does the NFL want on the field in those games? Exactly, the stars. Meanwhile, Addison pays the price immediately. 3 games gone, a team already battling injuries now left short-handed. The sense of injustice is real. Even national voices like Mike Florio from Pro Football Talk blasted the league, saying the situation makes no sense and only fuels the perception that the Chiefs get special treatment. And here's the burning question for Vikings Nation. Is there really an invisible hand keeping Kansas City on top? Or is this just sloppy timing dressed up as favoritism? Either way, Minnesota can't change it. Addison will serve his suspension. End of story. But this controversy stretches beyond the field. It hits fan morale, shakes trust in the league, and leaves players wondering if rules bend differently depending on the logo on your helmet. For the Vikings, the only answer is to turn that outrage into fuel, because if there's one way to silence any hint of favoritism, it's winning games no matter the odds. And if any fan base knows how to rally behind that fight, it's the Purple Faithful. One thing is clear, being a Minnesota Vikings fan is not for the faint of heart. Today we saw Makhi Blackmon fighting for survival, the desperate search for offensive reinforcements in free agency, the return of Justin Jefferson that instantly changes everything, and a fiery debate over the league's treatment of Jordan Addison versus Rashee Rice. Now I want to hear from you. Which story hit you the hardest, and what other moves do you think this team still needs to make? So, let's keep that energy going. Share this video, drop a comment, and hit that subscribe button for all the latest Vikings updates. Stay tuned. SKOL Vikings. Let's go.